Hello, deep thinker. In this video, I am inviting you to join me to think deeply about one idea. I'm going to go through and show you how I process ideas, how I think about it, how I add these ideas to my notes app, how I create some sort of canvas, some map, visual map of my thoughts. All of that is going to be in this video. But it's a real-time thinking session is what it is. And I love these types of videos and these thinking sessions because it energizes me to my core. So I have three tools that I use for these thinking sessions. One is the one you're looking at right now. It's called Ember. This is a web app that I actually have designed and built, and it's out of my desire to get rid of feeds, or to have a space that I can just kind of think about one idea and that's it. So in this app, it's pretty simple. I want to help you think about one idea per day. So it presents you with just one single idea. And you have three options. You can reflect, you can copy, and that'll copy the quote and the author. You can put that into your commonplace book, your digital commonplace book. You can write it in your physical commonplace book. You can put it in your notes app, whatever you want to do with it. You can shuffle to another quote if this one doesn't stir with you for that day. Finally, what I love is reflect, and that gives you some questions that are related to the quote. And I have handpicked each of these quotes so that you have a place and a space to think deeply. So that's Ember. All right. The link's below if you want to check it out for free for 14 days. And then I have Sublime. Sublime is my note-taking app, my commonplace book for my digital commonplace book. It is my thinking app as well. It's just incredible. Made by a small team, and I love what they're doing. If you want to check out Sublime after you watch this video, feel free to do that. The link will also be in the description. Then finally, I have ChatGPT. Right, this is what I use to transcribe my thoughts so that I can talk out loud and not have to think about like writing and all that. So the first thing that we're going to start with is the idea. This is the spark. This is the ember that is going kind of to start this thinking session. Friendship is being with the other in joy and sorrow, even when we cannot increase the joy or decrease the sorrow. So the first thing that I want to do is copy this. I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. And what I want to do is just kind of mind dump a few things right out of the gate about what I'm reading, about what I'm thinking. We often will find ideas and save them, but we don't think about them, right? We don't stop and we don't pause and think about them. So this is what I'm doing as I'm pausing and I'm thinking about these words and how they're going to hopefully shape me. So I'm going to hit dictate here so that I can start talking about what I'm thinking about. So I have this quote that I've been thinking about, and I've put it here in the chat, but I'm going to read it out loud as well. This is: friendship is being with the other in joy and sorrow, even when we cannot increase the joy or decrease the sorrow. Henry Nguyen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So friendship is being with the other in joy and sorrow, even when we cannot increase the joy or decrease the sorrow. This speaks to me because I think, and maybe you can relate to this, but I tend to want to solve I tend to want to solve problems. When somebody's especially with sorrow, when somebody's, just in sorrow, I want to fix what's going on. I want to help them be happy. I want to help them not have sorrow. But sometimes friendships or a friendship, it looks like me sitting with somebody, sitting with that person, and not striving to decrease the sorrow, not striving to fix it, but allowing emotions to do what they do. Allow the heart to feel for that person. Allow my heart to feel what they're feeling, but not because I need to do something, but just because I need to be with them. I need to be present. I think that's one of the most incredible moments of presence that I could do, is just literally to sit with somebody and not try to decrease the sorrow. That's what I'm thinking about as it relates initially to this quote. So I'm going to pause there because I don't want to go too long. Sometimes it times out, and all of what I said is not recorded. Let me go ahead and fix this just so that there's clarity on the quote. All right, so I'm just going to put that in there. It is rambling. It's all kinds of, nonsense and stuff. And there's and there's likes and all that. And ChatGPT will come back with some things. And it's kind of like a conversation. I can go back and forth. So this is like just one. I haven't even gotten into the reflection questions yet in Ember. But if I were to just kind of read through this, friendship isn't polished. It's present. You're circling around something sacred. He's naming kind of a companionship that runs against our default wiring, especially for fixers and helpers and people who love usefulness. What you're noticing is the quiet difference between intervention and incarnation. Intervention says, how do I change this? Incarnation says, how do I stay? And staying can feel wildly unproductive. That's it. I feel unproductive. But there's something deeply respectful about that posture. It says, your sorrow doesn't need to justify itself by being solved. Your joy doesn't need to be amplified to be worthy of company. Yeah, I remember talking about emotions, just allowing, we were like, a human has emotions. It is a good thing. I'll just do this because I have something to say. I was just thinking about allowing emotions to do what they do. Sometimes we are afraid of feeling, or we think that sadness is something that we need to avoid. But we are designed that way, to have emotions, and we need to process emotions in the right way, in a healthy way. We don't need to stay in sadness, but we do need to feel sadness. We do need to feel sorrow. We can't numb ourselves out. I'm reminded of Pixar's movie Inside Out, when finally, towards the end of the movie, the 5-second moment, as from the book, The Storyworthy, the 5-second moment of the realization that sadness is needed. Sadness was they were trying to avoid, joy was trying to avoid sadness for the longest time and keep her away from Riley. But Riley needed to feel sadness, right? She needed sadness in this moment. She needed to process with that emotion. so that it would feel like a complete experience, a complete cycle of processing that emotion without trying to avoid it. So a few things happened there. Like, I saw something in here that I wanted to, like, just a thread that I wanted to pull on. Emotions do what they do. I've talked about it in my initial response, in my initial thought right here. And then I was reading it up again, and I was like, you know what? I want to keep talking about that. I want to keep thinking about that. So I followed the thread. ChatGPT is good with kind of reading back to me things that, and pulling out things that, maybe themes or threads that I can pull on. Not 100% of the time, but this is helpful. And what happened here is some connections of ideas to, a book called Storyworthy, about the 5-second moment, all about how to tell stories. And the 5-second moment is that realization that the movie is all based around, and it just happens within 5 seconds. But then there's also the tie to Pixar and the movie Inside Out. So there's these things, these little connections that are happening. And it started with a quote, one single quote that I allowed myself to sit with. Okay. Now, inside of Ember, we have the reflect option, which is going to pull up some questions related to the quote. So, where in my life am I tempted to fix or cheer someone up instead of simply being with them? Who has practiced this kind of relation or this friendship with me, staying present without trying to change the moment? And what would it look like for me to offer a presence this week, even if I can't improve the outcome? I'm just going to copy these and maybe put them in here. And there's no pressure for me to answer any of these. It's just continued space to reflect and think about this idea. I added some questions here that I wanted to process and think about. And I think the one question that's kind of standing out to me is, like, what can I do this week when something, because I have kids, I have my spouse, I have friends, and there are moments throughout my week where somebody is going through something and they may not need advice, or they just need somebody to sit with. And I'm thinking about something that I can do is, I don't know, it just feels, it's hard because not saying something, maybe it, and this is maybe how it comes across in my perception, not saying anything or not trying to decrease the sorrow feels like maybe I don't care. But what actions, without speaking, what could I do? Like simple things like wrapping my arm around that person, or just sitting close to them, looking at them when they're talking, and sitting in silence. Sitting in silence. It's awkward sometimes, but just sitting and allowing things to settle as that person is talking to me. Not trying to immediately think in my mind, like, how can we fix this? What can we do? What's the next step? Or what can I say to encourage them? I think there's a time for encouragement, but also there's a time to allow that person to feel what they're feeling without having to say anything. So I had that question. There was only one question that I answered on what can I do, but it made me just think about also this point that, I think sometimes by not doing anything, it communicates that I don't care. But there's a difference. There's a big difference in, you know, communicating I don't care by not even responding at all and not being there versus being present but not having to try to solve the problem or try to fix it or try to encourage. There's a time for encouragement. Yeah. That's interesting. So what I want to do is maybe go into Sublime and create a new canvas just to kind of map out what's going on here and how this all started. Um, Friendship is... Here we go. Yeah, so I just searched in my notes for the quote. This quote I added to Ember because I found it on Substack, which is kind of cool, being able to see kind of the source of where it came from. But what I want to do is kind of think about adding my thoughts and ideas to this canvas here. Let's see. First thing, kind of the first angle that we have is allowing emotions to do what they do. And I can use the shortcut A to pull up an arrow so that I can kind of draw this here. I like this though. When you stop trying to decrease someone's sorrow, you often decrease their loneliness. So I added this to the canvas, and I want to add this to a life of with. As it relates to like with these responses in ChatGPT, a lot of it is kind of like mining for gold, where I'm just kind of looking for these one-liners that are that I can add to my commonplace book, right, in my notes app. People rarely remember what fixed their pain. They remember who didn't leave while it hurt. That's a cool line. I just don't know if it's true or not. But it does remind me of there's a quote about when everyone walks out of your world or something like that, a true friend is the one who walks in. I asked ChatGPT to create some garden notes using my words, just so that we can get some distillation here. We'll see what it comes up with. I like this, letting feelings finish, right? Sometimes the work isn't fixing the feeling, it's letting the feeling finish. Sadness isn't a mistake to correct. It's an experience to be completed, like I talked about with the cycle. I don't need to stay in sorrow. I mentioned that too. It's not good to stay in sorrow, but I do need to feel it. Otherwise, it leaks out sideways. That's good. I like that. And so I can now create a card for this because I want to keep this in a life of with. And I'm trying to think about another collection. I don't have one about like processing emotions. Maybe I won't add it right now. Yeah, I won't add it right now. Here's another note: presence over progress. There are moments when trying to make things better actually makes them smaller. Presence doesn't improve the outcome, it honors the moment. Sitting with someone without advice, without solutions, can feel like I'm doing nothing, but often it's the most faithful thing that I can do. Silence isn't indifference. Silence can feel like neglect when my instinct is to help, but silence, when paired with closeness, says I'm not going anywhere. Not speaking doesn't mean I don't care. Sometimes it means I care enough not to rush the pain. That's another one that I want to keep. So we've got just these little small cards, right? Because in Sublime, all of these are note cards, or they're cards. But I have these cards that are stemming from me processing the idea, but there are these moments here, like this right here. This whole canvas is kind of documenting this moment of just different thoughts and ideas that are stemming from one idea. The body speaks first. Before words, there is posture. Before advice, there is nearness. Let the moment be what it is. There is a time to encourage and a time to simply allow. Some moments don't need improvement, they need witness. Friendship doesn't always look like lifting sorrow. Sometimes it looks like staying until sorrow knows it's not alone. Let the moment be what it is. These are reminders for me when I revisit A Life of With, which is my collection of reminders to live life with other people and with God. But these are little reminders, and this whole canvas is going to show up on when I search in my notes on like around friendship and anything that's in this canvas that might pull up. Now Sublime, I have these notes now that are in Sublime. If I go over here and I refresh, all those moments are here. But what I was going to say is that it doesn't stop there. Like with Sublime, I have the option now to look at what are some other related ideas to the original idea that we started with, right? So I can use Sublime's related cards feature. And I can go through these and I can look at everybody's library. Sublime is the filter that is the default, which means that anybody who's using Sublime who saves a card that's public, because you can save private too, I will see those related cards. Or I can go to in my library, right? I can just look at cards that are in my library. Right, so now you can see here friendship as being with the other in joy and sorrow. Like that is this moment of let the moment be what it is, which is one that we saved a moment ago. To the library is now showing up as related. Let's see. Wonder requires a person not to forget themselves, but to feel themselves so acutely that their connectedness to every created thing comes into focus. Like this here is on allowing yourself to feel, which is connected to allowing emotions to do what they do, right? So what I'm going to do is use the arrow to kind of just show the relationship here of these things. Here's a book that I've saved. Another quote that I've saved, from Meg Wolitzer. She recognized that this is how friendships begin. One person reveals a moment of strangeness, and the other person decides just to listen, right? Just listen. That's what I need to do, is just listen. This is a moment here. How can I walk with an idea instead of rushing to understand it? A moment where, I went on a walk with my daughter, and she found a snail and wanted to take it with her while we were walking. And that the thought came to my mind, like, what if I took an idea on a walk? And that's kind of what I do in these videos. Like, that's what I'm doing right now, is taking an idea on a walk, just to kind of see where are we going with this. I have no agenda. I have no plans. But this is now becoming a kind of like a documented moment here of starting with this one idea. And this is exactly my goal. This is what I love to do. This is what I want to help other people do, like yourself, who is a deep thinker. We live in feeds, and it's time to kind of step out of those feeds and step into a space where we can just kind of think about one idea and allow it to kind of go wherever it needs to go. I'm not trying to produce anything. Maybe I'll write an essay, maybe I'll write a newsletter, maybe I'll write something, maybe I'll talk about it with a friend in the near future about what I've discovered and what I've been thinking about as it relates to friendship. Those are all things that can happen, but right now it's just connecting ideas and allowing myself to stay with an idea long enough to see what kind of comes of it. So now we have this board right here. It's not perfect, this canvas, but it's here. I'm trying to think of a title for this. Let's see. Right now I have sitting with a friend. On how to sit. Sitting with a friend in sorrow and enjoy. I think I like that. All right, I'm going to pause here. You can see, like, again, how I've used all of these tools to accomplish this, but now we have this moment of kind of ideas and connections, and I hope this encouraged you. Again, the links for Ember and for also Sublime are in the description below if you want to check those out. And thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you've gotten this far, I know that you love thinking with ideas and going deep rabbit trails and all that stuff. So thanks for hanging out, and I will see you on the next video.